Welcome to the Bookish Ballerina Podcast, where we talk about ballet, stories, art, science, economics, music, and everything in between. I'm your host, Eleanor Stewart, and I am a rather bookish ballerina.
Today, my guest is Tess Sinke Hoekstra, founder and artistic director of Deos Contemporary Ballet. We discuss the mission of Deos and how that is seen in how the company is run, as well as leadership and motherhood. I hope you enjoy. Hello, and welcome to the Bookish Ballerina Podcast. So to start off, what is your background and how did that lead to the founding of the company?
Yeah, so I grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, training at the Grand Rapids Ballet School, went all the way through their pre-professional program, and then I got my college degree from Mercyhurst University in dance choreography. And upon graduation, I was planning to go off and dance professionally, but I actually got sick and ended up having to stop dancing and was diagnosed with a chronic illness that sort of, it's long list of symptoms that we don't need to get into, but basically had to stop dancing. And so that allowed me to jump into my overarching dream of owning my own company a little earlier than planned. So after I met my husband, he was a engineer, zero dance background, but he really loved my dream of starting a ballet company. And so we started it together in 2018 as a summer-only professional ballet company. And since then, we've expanded to year-round operations, and we're going into our third season as a year-round full company.
Awesome. Okay, so what did the process look like first starting off?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was quite scary because doing something you've never done before is always but we were really blessed that, Andrew, coming from that engineer, very type A background, he is very smart with business practices and best business practices. So even though we didn't really know what we were doing, I felt like we had both sides of sort of the business down. I brought the artistic eye and all of that and, all of the knowledge of the dance world. And Andrew brought, how to run a business. So together we make a really good team. So we were able to start it. Definitely went in though, having different expectations and have learned a lot over the years. And I'm so glad that we started as a summer only company because that allowed us to really every summer grow more and learn from the summer before and implement changes so that, every summer we kept doing better and better so that by the time we went year round, we were like, okay, we understand how to go and we've sort of tested out and trialed out different concepts and ideas and different ways we might do things. So that when we did go full time, we, had a pretty good idea of what we wanted to be.
Very cool. Very cool. And then where did the name come from?
Yeah. So, Deos comes from Soli Deo Gloria, which we are not a Christian company. We are a secular company. We have dancers who work with us from all walks of life. But myself and my husband, we are Christians, and having that in the name, I think, is just a reminder to myself that to be a leader, a good leader, we need to always lead with love and be a humble leader, be a servant leader. So we really just feel called to lead the way Jesus led, which is being very open, welcoming, and loving, and to serve our employees. So, lead well, basically.
Yes. How did you make the decision to not be a specifically Christian company? What was that thought process?
Yeah. So I guess part of it is I've just never felt called to ministry. And also just both my and my husband's faith background. We both were really taught growing up that, the world doesn't need more Christian artists. The world needs more Christian. And so
I love that.
We both felt very strongly that we didn't want to ever have a Christian company. We felt that it was really important that we just not be afraid to say who we are, but also to be purposely a secular company, and to just be who we are and not, hide away from that, but also, work with everyone, and
Absolutely.
not be a ministry, I guess, if that makes sense. And I'm so thankful we did that, because we've gotten to work with so many incredible artists from so many different backgrounds. And, I think God calls us to, God is a God of love. And so I think that just influences all the decisions we make. So
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. And then more on the business side. So I know you started off with the summers.
Mm-hmm.
What was the beginning? What did the beginning look like from a business perspective? And then I know you have fairly recently transitioned to 501c3. So what did that look like? What did that entail?
Yeah, so we started off as a for-profit, mostly because it was the easiest way to get going. It's very easy to get become an LLC. It's a much longer process to become a nonprofit. So while we were just operating over the summer, it was easier for us to just be an LLC, get through the summer, and then you're kind of basically off during the year. Obviously, as we made that transition into going year-round, especially for funding, it was really important that we went nonprofit, so that we could build up our donor base and, at the end of the day, just be able to provide more programming. Most healthy nonprofits in the arts, ticket sales are only a small portion of budget. So much of the budget comes from donors and grants and corporate sponsorships. And so it was really important that we go nonprofit in order to grow and be able to really provide the financial stability that we wanted to for both the company and our dancers. And so going nonprofit, it was a long process, especially because we started it kind of on the tail end of COVID. And so all of the government offices were very, very backlogged. And so it took about 10 months, I think, longer than what typically processes take. So it was definitely a waiting game. But best decision we've ever made. Wish we would have done it sooner. And yeah, it's wonderful to be able to start growing our donor base and just become more rooted in the community here and more involved with other nonprofits in West Michigan and really grow that. So
awesome. Very cool. Very cool. So what are some challenges or surprises that you've encountered since starting the company or in any of the transitions?
Yeah, that is a tough question because there have been a lot.
I imagine.
I will say, I think starting a company, especially a company that, this isn't just a side gig, it's not just a passion project. We're trying to do something here that is going to be long lasting, that will be here after I'm not. Trying to build, a really solid, good ballet company that has a strong foundation of, the type of culture and community that it builds. And so it's 10 times harder than I thought it would be. I think anyone who is thinking of starting a nonprofit, especially in the arts, I would say expect it to take twice as much energy as you think, and expect it to take twice as much time as you think, and twice as much money as you think. Because it's hard. It's really, really hard, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it. But I definitely, year one, I would not have imagined the amount of work that we have, and time and energy and money that we have. But I do think it's all been worth it. The second thing is, young Tess would not have imagined the amount of stuff I would be doing besides just being artistic director. When you wear many, many hats. And so, I'm doing donor relations. I'm helping to write our grants, and I'm the one that tapes the Marley floor, rehearsals and just like ordering costumes, helping to make the costume. Like there's just so much that I do that is not specifically under like an artistic director.
Yeah.
And I think, young Tess would have no idea how much she would be doing besides choreography and like teaching and stuff, that I would be doing so much stuff that is not artistic.
Right. Yes. But again, go ahead. So what did the learning curve look like with grant writing, all of that?
So for the grant writing and like marketing, advertising, all of that stuff, it's something that, we really went into it having no idea what we were doing. We now have a marketer that is, on salary with us, and she does a fantastic job. She's our marketing and communications manager. But before we hired her, it was just myself and Andrew handling that. And it was learning as you go, you just kind of that fake it till you make it. And I think that honestly goes for the grant writing, that goes for the marketing, the communications, the reaching out to corporate sponsors. Sometimes you just have to you can do the research, but sometimes you just have to jump in and go for it.
Yeah.
We definitely did that a lot. But we have really, really learned and grown. And I think something, a really great positive about both myself and Andrew and really our whole team is we're all willing to ask questions and to take advice from people who know more than us. So we have had so many great conversations with people who have been in this longer than us, where we've been able to say like, hey, I have never written a grant before.
Right.
Can you walk me through this? And the same with, paid advertising and marketing and, reaching out, cold calling for corporate sponsors, like so much help from people who know more than us and have done it longer than us, who have been able to give us so much advice and encouragement that that really made a huge difference in how we were able to be successful.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. And then how did you get the idea to start with just the summers?
Yeah. So I knew that we were not ready to just jump in full time, because from day one, I have wanted to make sure that whatever company we create, number one, it's a company that will be around for the long haul. And two, that it is a company with a really strong foundation of trust and support for the dancers, that no one feels like they're just, a body in the room to be exploited. And because of those two things, you need to have financial stability, and you really have to have your values and your core values, your commitment. You have to have that really set, and you also have to have, the finance side really set. And we were not for either of those, especially the finance side. And so we kind of decided whatever we do, we need to do it right. So we never want dancers to work for us for free. We want to pay them for their time. Same with our tech crew and everybody. So it's like, okay, we are not we can't, we feasibly could not start a full-time company. So it made the most sense to start with a summer company where we could hire dancers who were looking for work during their off season. And there's so many dancers, that are off for a month or two over the summer, are looking for work and are otherwise, going to be on unemployment or paying to take class to stay in shape over the summer. So that just seemed like the most logical solution. And it went, really, really well. Our first year in 2018, we just hired people. We didn't do auditions. We just hired people that, I personally knew, that I had danced with in school and college. And then for 2019, we did open auditions, and we got so many people who applied. It was a little overwhelming, but also very encouraging that like, this is something people want. This is something dancers are looking for. And so we've kept our summer season sort of like that, where we bring in additional dancers through an audition process who don't work with us over the summer. So, or over the year. So our summer season is still our biggest show. It's still, we bring dancers. We have grown to have a collegiate internship program that we run. So it's still our biggest thing out of the whole year.
Very cool. Very cool. And then Am I correct? Y'all have a partnership with a dance school locally. How does that work?
Yeah, so we are the official professional ballet in residence at Michigan Ballet Academy. They have been here for, I think, over 12 years. I'm not entirely sure on that. They're a lovely pre-professional ballet school here in Michigan, in Grand Rapids. And during early COVID, we basically, we had been rehearsing at the studio I taught at out in Holland, Michigan, which is like 40 minutes away from Grand Rapids. But there wasn't really the space there to grow as a professional company. They were overloaded with classes in their studios. And also the dancers that we were working with were all in Grand Rapids. The audience that we started to grow and connect with were all in Grand Rapids. So we knew we needed to get to Grand Rapids, and an opportunity presented itself for us to partner up with Michigan Ballet, which it's been a wonderful organization and a wonderful partnership. So we use their studios, and we perform with them sometimes. We guest in their Nutcracker. A lot of our dancers are on faculty for their school.
Okay.
We help them with some of their marketing stuff, with capturing their performances and, helping swap costumes and all kinds of things. So it's a really, really wonderful partnership. And I think it's helped grow both the school and our company.
That's so neat.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And then we touched on this a little bit, but what is your mission, both with the organization and personally? And how do you prioritize that in working with the company?
Yeah. So for the company, we've got the detailed 5-10-year plans of, financial growth and all of that. But I think at the end of the day, our goal is to create a lasting organization that continues to follow our core value, which is be a good partner. And we only have one core value because we believe that the core value shouldn't be aspirational. It should be something that is already baked into your company values. And it's something that, is already seen in your organization and that you want it to continue to be seen. And so when we say be a good partner, we think of it as a ballet, right? In a pas de deux, both the male and the female, they have to be good partners to each other. They have to work together. They have to, when a tricky lift is happening, you have to communicate well and not blame each other and work through the hard things and, support each other. And that's the relationship that we believe all of the leadership should have with our dancers and our tech crew. It's also how we believe we should be treating and working with, area organizations and our audience members. So that be a good partner is really our core value. And no matter how or where we grow in the future, my hope is that that will always be our core value and that people from the outside looking in will always see that reflected in everything we do and how we conduct ourselves. And so being a good partner is my dream for the company. I, of course, want to see us grow our budgets so that we can pay our dancers more and see us grow our audience so that we're, getting in front of more people. But at the end of the day, it's, that we can continue to be good partners to everyone we work with and everyone in the community that we interact with. So, and I guess for me personally, as a director, I guess it's kind of the same. I hope I continue to be a good partner, and I fall short a lot. And I think that's where being a good partner comes in, is telling the dancers like, hey, I'm sorry, I forgot about this, or, just having that open communication. And then, balancing out being a director and a mom, making sure I'm present and there for my kids, are kind of my two goals.
Yes. Yes. So how do you balance that? Speaking as someone who's not yet a mom, but who would love to be in the future.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is hard being a working parent, because you do sometimes feel like you miss out on stuff. But I think, my husband and I both are very intentional that when we're home with the kids, we put away the phones and we aren't working so that we can be present with our kids. We like to joke that Deos is our third child. which it oftentimes feels like it just because of the amount of time and money and effort that we're putting into it. And we are very, very busy, but we also have the opportunity to see our kids grow up around an arts organization and have that love for the arts be instilled in them.
Yes.
Is really cool and unique. You know, my kids come with me to the studio. They get to meet the dancers. They get to sit and watch, and they both already have a love for movement. And, you know, no matter what they go off and do in life, I hope at least that they will always have that love for the arts and understanding of how integral the arts are for a society. And so, but yeah, it can be very, very difficult. But it's one of those things where you just have to decide to be intentional, which you can see my daughter over there, because again, she's here with at work. But yeah, being intentional when we're home. You know, we don't have a super beautiful put together house. You know, we set your priorities so it's like, okay, when we're home, we're not gonna, you know, we might not get the house clean. That's okay. We're gonna spend quality time with our kids because we're so busy. And show weekends, we don't see the kids a lot. We're both at the theater all day, every day, but then we make a point to make up that family time. You know, the week after, we kind of take a week after every show where we really just try to regroup as a family and spend that extra quality time together. So
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So how do you go about selecting work for the company, choreographers to work with, and then also what is your choreographic process?
Yeah, so I have a system that has definitely had to change over the years for selecting like guest choreographers. Because at the beginning, we really didn't have much of a budget for that. And as our budget has grown, we've been able to bring in more guest choreographers, which has been really exciting. And so with that, you know, we've gotten more applications for guest choreographers over the years. I really try to hire other female choreographers when I can to try and uplift, you know, women's voices, because women in leadership is such, you know, is not that common of a thing in the professional ballet industry. So I think it's really important to try and, you know, lift up those voices. But also I usually look for choreographers who have a very different style than mine that will still look really strong on our company dancers, because, you know, if it's too similar to mine, then why bring them in, right?
Right.
So I think it's, you know, I usually try to hire people who have a very different style, very different strengths than I do. And that's been really cool to see. So we've had choreographers who are much more modern than me or very, very balletic. Really fun. For myself, my style, I usually come up with the idea first, and then I am a research person. So I research whatever, whether it's a concept or a story or, you know, whatever it's going to be. I spend a lot of time researching and then a lot of time finding music and letting that idea sort of just sit and percolate, usually multiple years. It's just in the back of my brain. I've got the playlist that I'll listen to, you know, when I'm driving, and just kind of let it be until the time feels right. But most of my stuff, I'll say probably about a year is how long I typically just kind of am mulling over it in the background before I pull it out and actually act on it and start creating. So
I love it. Awesome. Well, you'll have a very, I guess, unique repertoire and creative works. So what is the story behind Cracked Nuts?
Yeah, that one's a fun one. So number one, I guess, yes, we're pretty unique in our stories. We like to think of ourselves as being an art lovers company and being very versed in storytelling. A lot of the work we do is very narrative. We really like to play around with different literary works or, you know, stories from history. Cracked Nuts is not necessarily either of those. So there's already plenty of nutcrackers here in West Michigan. Grand Rapids Ballet does their very big production value one that at the huge theater downtown. And then there's multiple dance schools that all put on lovely, lovely production. So it's like, we don't need to add another one to the mix. So how can we set our company, apart and be unique and still, create something that can be really fun for that winter season? And so we created this adults only Nutcracker spoof. So it's to the music of the Nutcracker. And we basically just made a really fun sort of office version. So Clara is the office manager of a corporate office called Stahlbaum Incorporated. And we've got Dross, who's her friend from the office. We've got the quirky accountant. You've got the HR department, and you've got the corporate girlies, we call them, and a whole bunch of other really sort of over-the-top characters. And we also have Sugar, who obviously is the Sugar Plum Fairy. And she is a directionally challenged stripper who ends up at Stahlbaum Christmas party by mistake, which then chaos ensues.
I would imagine.
So it's very, very fun. It's adult only. We premiered it last year, and we made it a really cool evening. So we paired it with an evening of hors d'oeuvres and desserts and signature cocktails based on the characters. We had a Michigan comedian be our opening act. So
cool.
We really tried to build a really unique, special evening that, could be a date night or girls' night, and just, come and just enjoy the Christmas season in a little bit different way than with your typical Nutcracker. And we're really excited. We're building off of that this next year. We're adding more characters. We're going to bring in a new comedian and really jazz it up even more. So, yeah.
I love it. That's so fun. That's so cool. Awesome. So what do you look for in your dancers when you're choosing people to work with in the studio?
Yeah. I think, so I have to think. Most of the dancers that we work with, I will say, they don't all dance the exact same. They're all very different. We have dancers who are very short, dancers who are very tall. But one thing that I always look for is a dancer who can be a storyteller, and not in a fake way, not just like, I have stage presence.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like can really be very human while they're dancing. I don't know another way to put that, who can be vulnerable and sort of really take on the character they're playing and say that. And so that's something that I've always looked for. And also just very unique movement quality. I think all of our dancers, they have really, really beautiful, unique styles of how they move, but they're not the same. But they all work well together. You know what I mean? It's just, they're very unique, and all very strong, beautiful dancers, and they all bring their own thing to the studio, which I love. I love that we're not just, everybody's 5'7" and looks the same. Everybody is, very unique and really brings that, into everything they do. And it makes for really interesting repertoire too, because I definitely choreograph to the dancer that I'm working with and to their personal strengths. So
that's great. So what are some things, so I know, for example, you have a partnership with a physical therapy team. So things y'all do for the dancers that are...
Yeah. So we do have a partnership with Athletico Physical Therapy, and specifically Shannon Loves. She was a former dancer, so she's got just a lot of really great knowledge specific to dancer industry. So our dancers work with her. We also, so our 6 dancers who work with us year round are W-2 employees. And we do not follow the sort of contract system that most companies do. Our dancers make it very clear to them that we do not do an end of the year contract talk. They do not need to worry about if they're going to be asked to come back the next season. They are paid every week of the entire year. And so we operate like a normal company outside of us. My husband coming from the STEM fields is like, he's like, no, why wouldn't we do this? Like,
right.
And that means that we don't like a lot of dancer turnover. We really want to invest in our dancers, make sure that they are paid, make sure that they are healthy, make sure that we are not overworking them so that they can really have a long career, hopefully with us, because we take a long time to hire our dancers. We make sure that they're the right fit. But then once we bring them on as a W-2, we plan to work with them until they choose to retire. And so because of that, I think that's given our dancers really feel like they're in a safe place because they know that they're not, day after day that they're being judged and might, not be asked to return for the next season. So to our audience, we have seasons, but to our dancers, they're in the studio year round. We do breaks, but we have, weeks off here and there, but we're employing them year round and expecting them to invest in us with their time and talents, just like we're investing in them. And it created a really strong relationship.
Very cool. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. What are some of your dreams for the future of the company?
Ooh, that is a hard question because I have a lot. But like I said, I think the core one is just that we continue to do good and do good in the community. I would love to see us grow our team, both our artistic team and our administrative team, just so that we can do more because you can only do so much with such a small team. So right now we have 6 professional dancers. We'd love to see that grow to 8 to 10 for our year-round company. We'd love to hire some more administrative personnel, once the budget allows. And then we would really love to do more touring, state and nationally. We'd love to be able to travel more and bring our work to more people outside of West Michigan. But again, all of those things, it takes time. Being financially responsible is really important to us. So, we're not going to ask our dancers to work for less than what they're worth. So the hours we do every week, the amount of shows we do every year is, it's where we're at right now financially with the budget. And as soon as we can grow, we will, but we need to grow in those very baby steps so that we're continuing to be, financial stewards of the company. So.
Absolutely. Very cool. Well, I have 2 questions left and you're welcome to ask any questions as well. But my last 2 questions I like to ask to every guest. The first one is, what is one thing you are learning about right now?
I'm currently learning a lot about Jane Eyre and Charlotte Bronte. Getting ready for our fall premiere of Jane Eyre, choreographing a full length. So I'm very deep in the research process right now. I've already reread the book. I've read the commentaries. I've done all of the research. I've watched every version of Jane Eyre movies from the 1983 version up through the 2011 version. I've watched the musical and the play by, the National Theater. So I feel like I'm very up to my ears in Jane Eyre right now.
Nice. Very nice. And then what is one thing you wish you could teach everyone?
Oh, that's a very good question. As a style, or you mean a life lesson?
And anything. So either one.
I think I wish I could teach people, especially pre-professional students, how to find joy in their not let the mental side get too overwhelming, because coming from my background where I thought I had years and years of dancing ahead, and that got cut very short, and I cannot do a ballet class anymore. I can do little bits of it, but my ability to dance has was cut short. And I just think of all the time I wasted being so insecure and worrying if, you could see my stomach, and worrying if my legs look bad, or just, all the worry that I think I missed out on feeling joy and really falling in love with dancing a lot as a student, because I was that bunhead perfectionist in high school. And I wish I could go back and tell my younger self to just, still work on technique, still, push for that, but like enjoy it too, because this is something that, you have been given a gift. Not a lot of people can do what ballet dancers do, and not a lot of people get the opportunity to go to a ballet school. Just in that itself is a privilege. So yeah, I wish I could get that through some pre-professional students' heads, that like it is a gift that you have, that you are able to come and train in the first place, and it's a gift that your bodies can move this way. And so just drink that up. Even if you have a really rough class, don't let that consume you. Still find the joy in movement.
I love it. Was that I imagine it was a very difficult transition away from dancing. I've had some health issues recently. Lord willing, it will not prohibit me from dancing, but it's always a challenge to think about that.
Yeah, I think, I had a really hard year coming to those terms. I think it is so important to listen to your body, and give rest. I really struggled, and I still do sometimes. It's weird when you have a chronic condition, and it's a little bit like losing, going through grief when you lose a loved one. That grief doesn't ever go away. You just adapt and, grow around it. But you still have days where you think, man, I really wish that I was able to do A, B, C, and D still. And so I feel like it's something that just continues to grow and change with you. You never are like, I'm 100% okay that this is how you learn to, you don't move on, but you move forward with your new set of circumstances. And again, you find joy through that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I so greatly appreciate you taking the time to come on and chat. And I am very excited to see what y'all do moving forward with Deos.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. This was great. And hopefully we'll stay in touch.
I hope you enjoy this episode of the Bookish Ballerina Podcast. To learn more, follow at the.bookish.ballerina or at the.bookish.ballerina.podcast on Instagram. You can also support us and learn more at www.buymeacoffee.com/the.bookish.ballerina. Thank you so much. See you for the next episode.